Thank you so much for joining us today and a heartfelt welcome to each one of you all. We are grateful to all industry leaders for being an important part of this leadership think turf, staying ahead of the curve, presented by ServiceNow and Inmorphis. Theme striking a balance between data and security. This initiative is powered by Pro MFG Media. At this important forum, today, industry leaders will share insights on how organizations can balance data protection and accessibility while effectively responding to data breaches and security incidents. This insightful and informative roundtable discussion will focus on understanding the importance of data and security, strategies for striking the right balance, embracing digital technologies to enhance security responses. On one hand, there is data, which is a valuable asset that can drive business insights, innovation, and decision making. On the other hand, ensuring the security of this data is essential to protect it from unauthorized access, breaches, and misuse. Achieving the right balance between data and security requires ongoing effort and collaboration across all levels of the organization. It is a delicate process that involves protecting data without hindering its usability of legitimate purposes. This knowledge platform, Leadership Think Turf, is designed to learn from accomplished leaders like you. Our goal is to access your experiences, your perspectives, and have a comprehensive understanding of the best practices that drive success for organizations. May I now invite Mr. Surya Singh, AVP Advisory, Inmorphis, for his welcome address. A brief introduction: Mr. Singh is a performance-driven technology professional with an impressive 17 years of experience in telecom, media technology, consulting, and software development. He has worked across domains of business engagement as well as requirement analysis, specialization, technology, project management, delivery, and solution design.
Thank you, Ramya, and a very good evening to all of you. So first of all, on behalf of the team here, I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for joining the session. I think it is a great privilege to have all of you here, and we really appreciate you taking out the time to join us in this evening. From the overall agenda perspective, first of all, I would like to set upon, we have a brief presentation to open with, where we want to give you an overview of how ServiceNow takes care of the data protection within the India parlance. Then we are going to get into the panel discussion, where we look forward to hearing your thoughts on how staying ahead of the curve and striking a balance between data and security. And after the panel discussion, we have a brief product presentation from Zishan here of ServiceNow on how ServiceNow as a platform can help in terms of implementing security operations in large enterprises. And post that, we will follow it up with the evening of get-together along with dinner. So that's the brief agenda which we have planned for this evening. So to begin with, we will start with a brief product presentation, and then we will go ahead. So if you can please bring the... Heard about ServiceNow as an enterprise platform. And maybe probably most of you would have heard ServiceNow in the context of IT, or maybe perhaps the most important component which we hear about is IT service management. But perhaps, one of the intent of this entire discussion is we wanted to bring it to notice of everybody that ServiceNow as a platform, it has gone way beyond IT, where in addition to standard IT service management, which is delivered by the platform, and that has been, I would say, the flagship product. It has gone into IT operations management. It helps organizations in terms of providing IT asset management. And then further, it has delivered, I would say, IT service management, operations management, asset management. It helps large enterprises in terms of managing their risk via the integrated risk management offering. It helps organizations on their HR workflows. And then recently, with the introduction of industry workflows, it is helping BFSI supply chain sectors in terms of implementing the core workflows beyond ERP solutions. So the platform has gone way beyond the traditional use cases. And of course, in front of you, there is a white envelope. If you want to see a few use cases, please feel free to explore it, which just gives you a gist of what platform can do for you beyond the traditional IT service. However, from the security and data protection perspective, if we look at, in the last decade has been more about on-prem solutions, where there was a solution which you purchase and you deploy it on-prem, and by virtue of the solution being restricted within your data center premises, there were a lot of data protection concerns, they were automatically addressed. However, with the rapid adoption of SaaS-based platform, which is ServiceNow, which is a cloud-based SaaS offering, how does those security and the data protection concerns are taken care of? That's the first part of the session where we wanted to bring to your notice how those are taken care of. So if we look at the top of ServiceNow, like first of all, from the introductions perspective, if you look at ServiceNow is the principal or the OEM provider of the cloud SaaS platform. As Inmorphis, we are one of the largest ServiceNow implementation partners for the Asia Pacific region as Inmorphis. So we are the elite partners for ServiceNow who bought the partnership to India, and we have been doing almost 230 plus implementations across India. Now, if we look from the data perspective, one of the important considerations for data has always been that how do you comply to requirements which are there from the regulators pertaining to data. And with the recent ratification of the data protection bill which has come up, there has been clear requirements in terms of how you process the data, how you transfer the data, and how you store the data. Now, as part of the requirement, if you look at the grid, there has always been segregation in terms of sensitive private information and the private information. Now, by virtue of ServiceNow as a cloud provider, the data center is hosted in India itself, based out of Mumbai, with the DR also in India as part of Bangalore. So I would say, regulatory requirements pertaining to the data storage and data processing, both are already taken care of as part of the regulatory requirements. So the data resides within the country, and that is the reason, in fact, in the last 18 months, you would have observed that there is a rapid adoption of the platform, especially in the regulated entity. Let it be telcos, let it be the BFI sector. In fact, one of the largest banks, starting with ICI, HDFC, or IDFC, they all have started adopting the platform by virtue of the data being in India itself. However, still there are specific customer segments which have a requirement that what about my SPII? Maybe if I'm a bank or if I'm a regulated entity and I have ownership for something like Aadhaar number for it. Now, still the requirement could be that Aadhaar numbers I want to still preserve within my data center boundaries. The rest of the information could flow outside. And to solve this particular problem, where if you have a unique requirement where your SPII resides within your data center, however, still you're able to leverage the full power of a typical cloud offering like ServiceNow. That's where Inmorphis as a partner has introduced an offering at the top of ServiceNow platform called Sensitive Data Protection. If we look from the overall solution design and approach perspective, it's a fairly simple approach where we have ServiceNow platform running in cloud, and within your data center, we have introduced a small gateway component, which is in ServiceNow language, it is called mid-server. That is as simple as you can take it as a routing proxy, which takes care of two aspects. First is any field which is within your environment, which you have marked as sensitive SPII, that particular field, instead of getting stored in ServiceNow cloud, it is localized within your data center, within your database itself, for which you have full control. However, as part of the same workflow, the rest of the data, the rest of the workflow, you are still able to leverage the platform. So all the security controls, everything remains intact, which is in terms of using an industry-leading SSL, TLS 3.0, HTTPS port 443. However, still SPII, you're able to localize. And that could be specific to your use case. Let it be Aadhaar number, let it be credit card numbers, it could be PINs. However, still you're able to leverage the full platform. And this has been the traditional implementation architecture. In fact, there are multiple customers who have gone ahead and adopted it. These are the few of the benefits if you look at. It comes up with a very simple 60 minutes setup on the platform where via click-based configuration, you're able to configure the platform and you're able to start with the local residency for the data. Then it gives you full ability in terms of going back, and tomorrow if there is a change in the regulation or a change in your policy, you can always migrate back from your on-prem to the cloud-based implementation or vice versa, so that the full rollback capabilities, restoration capabilities are with you. And of course, very important, it gives you ability to retry as well. So all the scenarios pertaining to typical API design, they are all taken care of as part of ServiceNow platform implementation itself. From the use case perspective, in fact, this has been one of the important game changer solution for the likes of very large card processing organization in India, one of the largest stock exchanges, then multiple banks who have gone ahead and adopted the full value of the platform while automatically taking care of the SPII requirements, which requires a localization within the banks or the stock exchanges. So there are like almost, you can see the number of stats, multiple customers are already using it, and that talks in itself in terms of the adoption and the stability side of the platform. So what I will do is I will just switch over to a brief video which gives you at a conceptual level how exactly the functionality operates, and then I would be happy to pick up any questions.
You can set up global properties for the application like database type and failure mechanism for any transaction. This setup is one time. After this, we will select table configuration. In this, we will select the table which have sensitive data. Let's select the sample incident table configuration. Here, we have marked sensitive fields like short description and description. We can also provide additional condition for our configuration to work. Also, let's mark attachment on incident as sensitive. Under Table Fields Configuration tab, we provide configuration like field type and field length for external database where our sensitive information is being saved. The last configuration is to provide the database operation enablement. You can select the operation like insert, update, read and all for the marked sensitive fields. As all configurations are saved, let's see it in action. Let's create a new incident. And provide details like caller, category as software and put input in short description and description field. Let's submit the record. Here on the list layout, you can see the short description and description field data is empty. This is the proof that data is not saved in ServiceNow database. Let's open this record. Here, we can see a message appear stating that sensitive data loaded from database. And we can see our short description and description data on the form. To see the sensitive data logs, go to Activity Log tab and click on Show Data button. After clicking, we got the activity details for sensitive marked field. Now let's update the short description and click on Update. Now updated value is loaded from database. We can also check the activity log to see updated values captured in logs. Last, let's upload one attachment marked as sensitive for incident table. Once the attachment is uploaded, refresh the form. Click on Load Attachment button, which will open a new screen. Here you can select the uploaded sensitive file and download it. India works with ServiceNow, and Inmorphis works with you.
I think that was a brief introduction about how exactly the solution works. So before I move to the next part, which is the panel discussion, any specific questions anyone wants to know, or we are good to proceed further? Please.
There is a RBI circular which talks about early warning signals, okay, which has to be implemented by April 2024. Okay, whether this platform is configured in this manner that it will detect that early warning signals or something?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, so there are two parts to it. So first is, I would say, proactive signals within your environment, which is managed by ServiceNow. So there it has capabilities in terms of generating those proactive alerts. And second is, I would say, the proactive warning or alerts pertaining to the self-diagnostic part of the platform itself by reporting. So both options are available where it could be fed in directly to either your system or the process itself could be run on ServiceNow itself. And in fact, that's part of the second presentation, which we are going to cover, that how exactly the entire process could be orchestrated at the top of ServiceNow itself, if you want to.
Thanks a lot.
Please.
What I was trying to say is, as per the recent RBI directions on this outsourcing of IT services, a lot of importance is given to the legal requirements, the NDAs, and the robustness of the, say for example, for your service now. Can you throw some light on what are all the legal backups you have for all that? Because, say for example, as a company, if you start going for the service now, come 1st of October, it's mandated by the RBI that every financial institutions beyond a certain threshold, I think 1,000 crores or something.
Correct.
So they'll have to be in compliance with all the norms and directions of what they have specified. So what kind of legal safeguards are there in order to aid that particular requirement of the RBI?
Definitely. So specific to, in fact, in context to the recent guidelines which has come up, so how as a platform ServiceNow is looking forward to addresses, first is it is in terms of the control requirements, which is there is a whole set of control requirements pertaining to what are the controls which are applicable for data in transit, data at rest. When you implement the platform, how do you provide the role-based access controls, and so on and so forth. There is a big list to it. So essentially, as a platform, those are taken care of as part of the platform itself. Like for example, if I take a very small example, how do you take care of your data at rest? So essentially, as a platform, it provides you capability in terms of full DB encryption, so that whatever the data you have stored on the platform, they are encrypted, and the keys are as well managed by you only. You have the capability to handle your encryption keys also. And second is in terms of providing full isolation even till the infrastructure layer, where the instances are not multi-tenanted, but they are single tenanted, and there is a segregation even till the virtualization layer. So that is also enforced in the platform itself. Second, very important aspect is it's not limited to the technology. The ask has been clear that, okay, first is you have to provide, I would say, assurance over subcontracting. So that it provides clearly in the platform that there is no concept of fourth-party subcontractors or subcontracting of the contractors. So all the employees, the full management of the platform, that is done by the ServiceNow itself. The whole platform is hosted on the self-managed cloud, which is completely end-to-end handled by ServiceNow. So there is no subcontracting or subleasing into picture. And in addition, the most important aspect which we call it as, first is how do you get assurance that the platform is able to deliver what it is promising on the security part of it? So first is regarding the attestation, where it provides you with access to all the certifications pertaining to, I would say, SAS 70 Type 1, Type 2, ISO 27K1, then all the BCP and the DR drills which are happening. You have direct access to all the reports. It provides you capability to even block schedules and conduct your own vulnerability assessments and application testing for the instances which has been provisioned by you. That capability is also given to you. And at a contractual layer, it provides you security incident reporting, where in writing at a contract level, you get that all the certain applicable processes would be followed. You would be notified if there is a security breach which happens. There is a contractual confirmation on the data breach aspect of it, which is indemnification for data breach limited to the contract value. That is also embedded as part of your contracts which you sign with the platform. So it's a multifaceted, it's a set of technical controls which has been implemented. It is a set of people controls which are committed, the assurance and the certifications which has been provided to you. And when you sign your contract, the data breach, security incident reporting, and the indemnification, that all is part of the contractual framework as well. And the thought process is once you combine all, that gives you a reasonable assurance, level of assurance that you are adopting a cloud platform which is at par with the security policies you have within your organization.
Yes. One more aspect is the points that Surya told. It's applicable till when you are taking the platform. But once you have taken the platform, there is another party, that is the implementation of the platform. Now, what happened is ServiceNow has even thought about that one, because it actually depends on the implementation partner how they have implemented the configuration for you for your process to work. Now, ServiceNow has introduced two systems. One is ServiceNow Support, which is a proactive platform which keeps monitoring the platform from the security point of view. And there is an application on the platform itself that you can view at any time what kind of access, what kind of data, what kind of rules, what kind of security details are there. Even the platform will tell you that these are the security parameters that has been applicable. So there is a best practice list of ServiceNow, not just ServiceNow, basically all the best practices for any of the security system. Those are there, and you can see that what all has been implemented from the implementer when they are implementing your process, and what all the security postures has been left out. And it will clearly show you that where you are right now based on your security, so that you have the actual idea that what to do with the platform. So ServiceNow has actually thought through that aspect as well, because the the party who will be doing the implementation can do the implementation in n number of ways. But what is the implication on the security side? You will definitely get it from the platform. So that is one point that about I wanted to add on Surya's point.
If you see the directions, the RBI, though not technically, it is asking you to ensure that safeguards. It is asking you to comply with all the safeguards, and then there should be some sort of certification on those safeguards saying that this is final. Because when we start facing the RBI auditors, they'll check what is the confirmation that these safeguards are up and running and these safeguards are correct. That's the problem. That's the reason why I asked you this question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can certainly relate to this one, because I was with one of the finance company. We implemented ServiceNow there, and in front of the auditor, my team was there. Okay, so I do agree that those controls, it's not just the outcome now. RBI is asking to show where these controls are being implemented, and they are not just asking the data from the system. They are seeing that okay, the right data is being monitored in the system, and the data that you have shared is the data is actually in the system or not, the system that you are having. So I certainly agree with that point.
The responsibility lies on the registered entity, that is the RE, and not the service provider. That's one key point everyone should note. So that's why I asked this question.
Yes.
One point which I want a clarity is, suppose is the data has to be manually entered, or suppose for example we have something called eKYC. It gets the data from the Aadhaar directly once the fingerprint of the customer is given. So will it take it directly from that kind of a database, or the transition? I want to avoid all manual interferences in the database entry. So is that feasible, or how is this product designed in that?
Okay, like for example, within ServiceNow ecosystem, so it has a offering for the financial services industry as well, where like for example, recently we have implemented for one of the banks, where the whole eKYC for the corporate or the retail customer onboarding. Generally, the trend which we have seen is integrations like eKYC. There are already fintech aggregators which are available in India. Like for example, if KYC, it most goes to the Karza part of it. So what banks or regulated entities are doing is they are storing the Aadhaar as information, and then using the Aadhaar as a base, they are hitting the aggregator, and it's the aggregator which is actually executing the core workflow in terms of eKYC authentication. And then once it is cleared, then a base set of information is returned, and then a bank is only storing that limited information. However, the core functionality pertaining to integration with the UID has been offloaded to the aggregators. So ServiceNow follows the same approach, where like if let's say you are implementing a corporate or a retail onboarding experience at the top of the platform, for all eKYC checks, including the director validation, PAN card validation, it goes and it integrates with the source. Let it be the NSTL integration or the eKYC via Karza or the penny drop for the DDU part of it. Those all are provided as integrations within the Indian ecosystem. And that's how workflows are getting implemented. So one way to look at it is the core workflow resides here. Your client, your account, your loan masters reside here. However, for integrations, the aggregators are there, where it integrates with the aggregator to complete the eKYC, to complete the DDoP, to complete the identity validation, and then again comes back and executes the workflow. Please.
Follow-up question on that. The initiation happens in this tool.
Yes.
And it goes back to the aggregator or the relevant service provider and gets the data from it and saves it in this.
Precisely.
Is that what
Precisely.
is
You're
my
right.
understanding correct?
Very correct.
So basically, what about this data privacy prevailing in this system?
From the data privacy perspective, so there has been a multi-layer architecture, I would say. So first is definitely it starts from the very top that unauthorized user. From the unauthorized user perspective, the data in transit and data at rest. So the full encryption controls has been implemented to the level of the encryption keys. If it is managed by the platform, it is into a HSM-based hardware vault. Otherwise, as a customer, you also have full control over your encryption. So that even if unauthorized access to data is happening, it is encrypted. Then second is within the platform, it follows the standard architecture of a role-based access control implementation. It supports multi-factor authentication. It could be via first factor using your SSO or your SAML or your identity provider. And the second factor could be via the authenticator apps, or it could be via SMS-based tokens or so and so forth. So, and the third level which comes up within is the group-based access controls. So combining all three together, which is the encryption controls over data in transit, data at rest, the role-based access controls, multi-factor authentication controls, coupled with your group-based identity structure. That provides a reasonable level of assurance over how your privacy aspect is handled in the platform. And it has full capability that you can restrict data to the record level, to the column level. Both are feasible.
Your screen, what you have been showing, was on the premise of how it is getting hidden on the application layer and it is coming from the database. It is directly giving example on the database. But the point when we come for PII data, which every one of these banks are worried about, which comes to us as vendors also, is about PII data which is in the logs. So I mean, I would assume that the architecture when it is designed for ServiceNow on PII, that should have been put in place. So I'm asking that as a confirmation, do you have that in place?
Definitely. So from the this I would say logging architecture. So again, logging architecture first is I would say pertaining to the user activities, and second is pertaining to the transactions. So user activity logging, that is embedded in the platform itself. So it gives you the micro controls over who is logging in, who is logging out, which screen you are going to, and what are the activities you are performing. The second, which is transaction logging. Transaction logging capability, that is completely in the control of the customer itself.
Okay.
Where like you have full control over what you want to log, to what log level you want to define, and whether there are certain fields which you want to completely skip or avoid from logging or not.
Configurable.
So using that, you are able to govern that no sensitive information is going as part of the logs itself.
Got it. A follow-up question is the date. I think you mentioned about data localization is in place for Mumbai and Bangalore.
Correct.
So the application sits in this two environment, or is it again connecting like a SaaS model somewhere else outside the country? Because this would come from RBI for sure.
Absolutely. So from the deployment architecture perspective, everything is based out of India itself.
Okay.
Where the primary data center is in Mumbai, and that is including all the three layers, starting from the application to the database to the presentation layer. Everything is in Mumbai, and the DR is based out of Bangalore. So effectively, as part of the entire communication path, nothing goes outside India unless as part of your use case implementation, you make a call to outside India.
Got it. And the final question would be, you also mentioned about a multi-tenant architecture, but in single tenant. Throw some light how you have done it, or what is it about?
No, definitely. In fact, Akash, why don't you take this one? I think.
So usually, in many of the companies in the SaaS platform, usually what happen is there is just one box, and they've virtualized that one box, and the database is shared. But in case of ServiceNow, it's not happen in this way. So when you take a ServiceNow instance, so actually a physical rack is separated for one customer. Your production instance, your dev instance, and your UAT instance, or how many number of the instances you take based on the number of licenses and number of use cases, everything is physically separated. It's not shared, that data is not shared, the track is not shared, everything is physically separated in a different cage. So that's how your data and everything is separated. And that's how ServiceNow is able to survive till now on security.
How many incidents has happened in last 6 months?
Incident like security one?
Security breaches.
In ServiceNow, there has not been, from last 6 months, I don't recall there is any incident on ServiceNow. But if I remember, there were one customer, okay, who was having kind of a data friction issue, okay. But at that time, when ServiceNow came into the picture, they figured out that data friction was because of security control that customer has implemented. It was a leakage issue from customer side. Nothing from the data center. See, there are two layers, okay. One is data that you protect while it is in your network, okay. That is obviously within the customer control. Now, the second type of data is the data that is getting stored in the database, right? So there are two layers. One is key controlled by ServiceNow, and another is key controlled by customer. So we call it as SK and CCK, customer controlled key and ServiceNow controlled key. Now, in case of the key that is controlled by ServiceNow, ServiceNow is liable for whole data protection and everything. But in case of customer controlled key, now both the parties are liable. Okay, and even the layers of the security in the application, this is actually 4 times encryption happen within the platform before it moved to database. And that's the ServiceNow IP. ServiceNow has a registered IP on data security. That's the only platform which do 4 times encryption before going into the database.
Definitely. I believe like this is one of the things which definitely as a platform it is very proud of. Maybe perhaps if you Google and you search that, okay, the last downtime for ServiceNow Cloud or the data breach, maybe you would not find anything. So I think that's one good thing which has happened, and the architecture is working well, considering even to the level of if there are location level disasters which are happening, by virtue of it being an active DR running across 2 locations, it is able to serve the customers across the regions as well.
So the words are already in with RBI. So there is a ServiceNow team that is talking to the RBI center, and I cannot say more. And obviously ServiceNow won't let me say more onto that one. But yes, definitely give us some time. There will be few parties as well as ServiceNow as well as RBI that are coming with a few product as well as certification from the RBI side, because we know that when we propose this software to you guys and to other customers, especially the BFSI sector, obviously there is a big ask that is it RBI compliant, and if there are many other companies who has adopted it from the financial sector. Obviously, when I was selling it out for the first customer, it was very difficult. But now we already have a good amount of financial companies, financial sectors, stock exchanges. Obviously, you understand what I'm talking about. But still, ServiceNow is in talk with the RBI so that your ask can be fulfilled. Just give us some time.
And I believe, like, of course, like it's nothing to confirm, but in future you may see RBI itself using ServiceNow.
Absolutely.
Even that they won't vouch it. So I was actually shocked when he said an affirmative answer, because it's like a strict parent, right? He will give a nod.
Absolutely.
That's it. Nothing more. They go beyond that. Sir, that's why they made it as a closed group conversation. You can tell that. It's okay. You can rant.
Absolutely.
I feel your I feel the frustration as well, because for that one company, I was actually helping them out to clear their RBI audit. Let me tell you, same data I have to give, I don't know, my team has to give n number of times.
I just want to share one incident. There was one of the financial institutions, I don't want to name it. They were certified by HIPAA, HAPPA, and RBI did not understand what HIPAA was.
So, end of the day, sir, it happens that auditor specific. The auditor's knowledge also comes in.
Because all that they knew about HIPAA was it's got a certification at the application level, at the implementation level, various types of certification. In Europe it's separate, another place separate, so they got confused. They finally asked us, no, we don't believe in HIPAA, it's someone's way. Oh, guys,
That again depend on who is coming for.
Yeah, that's
doing
how
the
it's
audit.
auditor specific. But HIPAA, but I agree, HIPAA is more stringent than any other even financial control you have to put it in.
See,
Agree.
I do recall that I was talking to a healthcare, and he was like, Indian healthcare. In Indian healthcare, there is nothing like PHI. Okay, different regulation, and at that time, ServiceNow was having PHI from healthcare industry point of view. He was like, I don't know PHI, but certainly after some times, that gentleman actually understood what is PHI. He understood, okay, it actually supersedes what we are having as a control here. And then he gave a pass through. And the thing that I'm talking about is for the POC.
oh yeah. Okay.
In fact, from the focus perspective, if you ask me right now, especially in India at this point of time, BFSI definitely it has been one of the largest focus area where in addition to the core platform, there are vertical products also which are being created. For example, if you search with ServiceNow FSO, financial services offering, which has come up recently, that specifically caters to the fintech and the NBFC use cases pre-built into the platform. So definitely BFSI is one of the largest focus area in addition to, I would say, ITES, and with the data center in India, has been a tremendous focus on the PSUs as well, where PSUs at this juncture are looking very favorably in terms of adopting a cloud-based platform, which can help them adopt the digital journeys. So these are the three, if you ask me, the top three candidates which are looking forward to adopting the platform. And I would say on the tier one, the penetration has already happened actually. You pick up the tier one banks in India, they have already adopted it. So perhaps now the first set of concerns or the early adopter phase is already complete. Now it is just going ahead with the specific verticalized use cases to go further. So thank you. So maybe what I will do is with this very quickly, perhaps we will move to the panel discussion, and maybe I will just join you there.
Thank you, Surya. Before we move on to the panel discussion, let me introduce our all-star panel speakers who have joined today on this discussion on striking a balance between data and security. Firstly, introducing Mr. Shankar Vishwanathan, Chief Information Officer from Sundaram Clayton. In his 40-year career spanning multiple international regions and arcing over 100 customers, Mr. Vishwanathan has been responsible for managing teams that stacked up to several thousand people. He has accumulated rich experience in handling large client engagements successfully. His professional philosophy has been to deliver value, to deliver digital transformation, to help business make themselves future ready, and of course, continuous learning. Warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Vijay Chaudhary, the head IT from Sterling Holiday Resorts Limited. As a CIO, he is responsible for overseeing and strategizing all technological developments as well as initiatives internal to the organization, as well as in the context of acquisition of external clients. He has been also leading the effort for making IT a profit center. Dr. Vijay Chaudhary is extremely passionate about bringing in digital transformation at Sterling Holiday and Resorts. He has around 38 plus resorts across geographical location. A very warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us today. Our next panel speaker is Mr. Sarveshwara Rao, CISO, Hyundai Motor Mobis India. With more than 20 years of IT experience in the manufacturing and automotive domain, he has headed IT teams while handling IT strategy planning, SAP project planning, design, implementation, and support management of ERP and so on. As a project manager, he has successfully overseen 4 full cycle SAP implementation, proficient with various international cultures like Korean, Singaporean, American, and Chinese. He has also handled application development teams in various domains like MES production system, HRMS, PLC, partner, dealer, SCM, vendor portals, and after sales part systems. A very warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us. Our next speaker is Mr. Sudarshan Kasturi, Chief Financial Officer, Easy Access Financial Services Limited. He's a finance profession with over 30 years of experience in leading and managing the financial, commercial, and operational areas of ITES, trading and manufacturing companies, both locally and globally. An experienced strategist, Mr. Kasturi has demonstrated track record of driving growth, reducing cost, improving operations, and successfully creating solutions for complex business problems at both Fortune 500 and startup organizations in domestic and global market. A very warm welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining today. Our next speaker is Mr. Sibi PM, Chief Risk and Compliance Officer, Equitas Small Finance, a Chief Risk Officer and an enterprise leader with 27 years of banking experience. He has been leading strategy, transformation, and people. His expertise spans corporate and retail banking, credit treasury, compliance, and risk management, as well as training. He is working with leading banks, handling broad risk oversight, regulatory affairs, rating agencies, and investor relations with track record in transforming enterprise risk management for traditional as well as new age. A very warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us today. Our next speaker is Mr. Vaidyanathan Iyer, Head Internal Auditor from Repco Home Finance. He's a visionary and a senior internal auditor with over 20 years of extensive experience in internal audit of banking, insurance, and petroleum sector. He has qualitative experience in steering, auditing, general accounting, financial control with key focus on maintaining consistency and quality. Mr. Iyer possesses a thorough understanding of business processes, auditing standards, and related risk and control framework. A very warm welcome. Our next speaker is Mr. Naveen Raj, Chief Audit Officer, 5-Star Business Finance, with expertise in building internal audit system and analyzing structured transaction, including mergers and acquisition. Mr. Naveen Raj also has profound knowledge in interpreting and applying various accounting standards, including IFRS, and analyzing expected credit loss model. He has also ably handled technical topics in various board meetings of the company, including presentations in technical forums. A very warm welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining. Our next speaker is Mr. Shiv Ramakrishnan, Vice President, Information Security, M2P FinTech, a known cybersecurity executive and product and cloud security advisor. His mission is to impart knowledge on protecting business and individuals from cyber threats. He has led multiple compliance, certification, and attestation efforts, earning a reputation for delivering secure, resilient fintech payment products and platform. Mr. Shiv Ramakrishnan is driven by understanding user behavior and identifying problems that can be solved with technical solution. He's constantly pushing himself to stay ahead of the latest trends and threats. A very warm welcome and thank you so much for joining. Our next speaker is Mr. Girinath Dave, Director, DigiMoney, With a career spanning over a decade, his journey started at Deloitte, where he showcased his expertise in navigating complex financial landscapes. Gurinath's visionary approach has not only kept DigiMoney Finance at the forefront of the industry, but has also positioned it as a beacon of excellence in fintech, setting new benchmark for efficiency, security, and user satisfaction. His dedication to harnessing the power of technology underscores his role as a true catalyst for progress in the ever-evolving landscape of financial technology. A very warm welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And our speaker from Inmorphis, Mr. Akash Rajput, the CTO. Mr. Rajput has experience in ServiceNow-led transformations, including technical architecture consulting and design and delivery of solutions across multiple domains. During his industry tenure, he has been instrumental in leading complete workflow transformation for customers, thus resulting in multi-year cost advantage via better process and technology. Thank you so much, Akash, for joining us. And our moderator for this session is Mr. Surya Singh. Just a brief introduction about Surya. Surya is the AVP advisory from Inmorphis. He is a self-driven technology professional with an impressive 17 years of experience in telecom, media technology, consulting, and software. Over to you, Surya.
A very warm welcome to all of you. So in fact, first of all, I wanted to bring to your notice that definitely it's a closed room conversation. So please feel free to express your open views. And definitely one key takeaway which we are looking forward to this particular conversation is, in addition to the standard product visibility, that your inputs really help in terms of driving the product roadmap itself. And second is the practices which as an industry looks forward in adoption of a SaaS platform, which could really go into product development as well as into the implementations. So with reference to that, maybe I will just shift a little bit. As we now stand, almost every organization is into the era of implementing a digital transformation journey of its own. And of course, there are different stages of maturity with which you all are driving. However, on one aspect, if you look at from the business user, there is always a pressure or an ask that you should develop the best of the experience, which should be available to your internal customers as well as to your external customers. You should provide seamless access to information, seamless access to data. However, at the same time, definitely it is taken for granted that all the data security controls should be taken care of. That should be like salt in the vegetable where it should be there. So I will move on to the first question. Perhaps I will start, Sudarshan, with you. The very first question. So on one side, you have your business users who always request or ask for the latest and the greatest. And on the second hand, I would say you have your CISO organization, which looks for the most stringent of the controls, which could be implemented to secure. So how do you go ahead and bridge the balance between the two?
Yeah. So as I said, this Panchabhut is very important. Till recently, I mean, still about 10 years back, your security and data used to be together. It used to be intertwined. Then as we went along, each one started being a specialist on itself. Then we had actually niche skills only on data, niche skills only on security. So as a result, they both went apart. So now, so there is an imperative need, for security to be in place with respect to data management. My approach is, in all my career, I don't see as a whole, in IT department, I go by these phases, by these Panchabhut. I try to, with my IT team, I try to install security measures at every stage, which I feel is the key process. And it all depends, to what extent you should have security, that depends on each user case. So, and in the process, we come across so many platforms, so many software platforms, with us service offerings. Choosing that particular one is a great task. As a CFO, what I've always felt is there is no coordination. As I've seen a track record, there has been no coordination between the technology person and the finance person. they all think, your security, your cyber security is a part of IT budget. No. In my opinion, the CISO and the CFO should work in tandem and install a separate budget only for safeguard. That's very, very important. You can't possibly have an IT budget along with your computers, your MacBooks and all that. You also have this. No. You should have an exclusive budget. The way things are happening now, it's very, very important. They should have a separate budget for CISO, and the CFO should actually help them out. I was working in one of the companies in Hyderabad. I'm talking about in 2012. Those days we had a separate budget, and we had a major data breach, and I found that in that particular data breach, because we had to have a system in place, safeguard system, which was on those days it was actually costing around $100,000. We had to invest it, but because of that, lucky we escaped. So my experiences have a separate budget for cyber security. That's very important. Don't mix it up with your common IT budget. So as a CFO, I would try to enforce that. So with all these factors, I think I'm managing, the security for my company, and I would always advise the other companies to follow suit. We wish that CFOs for our companies also. Thank you.
Definitely. I was about to add the same comment, but thanks a lot for sharing your views. And in fact, Vijay, I would just share an example. We were just talking a couple of hours back. Actually, from the hospitality perspective, on one side, I would say whenever anybody checks in, the general trend has been that, okay, there is an Aadhaar card number which is provided, and that the Aadhaar card information is actually stored in a hospitality, although it has nothing to do with it. And on the second hand, we have customers like some very large card processing organizations who are scared of touching Aadhaar. Like we had a major project for the customer scrubbing Aadhaar from their entire IT landscape. So, one is accessibility to the data, and second is the data protection. So what are the key considerations for you when it comes to, especially you have so much Aadhaar information in plain text?
Hello. Yeah, so like hospitality industry is one of the sensitive industry. Like we always think about data sitting in the IT department, and we are worried always. Say guest is checked in. After check-in, he has to log into Wi-Fi access, and he has to provide all the data when he is checked in. So this is always a key discussion in the boardroom. Always that how do we bring the confidence in boardroom, especially, and if we have a CFO like Sudarshan, then it is going to be a very plus point where security should be seen as an investment, not a cost today. Like say for example, it can be capitalized later on, like whatever you invested. Yeah, so it should be like one of the key component where in a less discussion, it should be passed. Say for example, for going forward implementation. So in hospitality industry, this is a priority today. Like we have seen a lot of breaches in last 2 years. Major brands has suffered with the breaches, like maybe Marriott and Radisson and a lot of brands. So this is the key concern at our end. Like we have seen the automation in your platform, like say one of the point I wanted to ask was that if in case the accessibility is not there for the backend, say for example, table access, because a lot of platform today, SaaS-based platform, they don't provide you access to backends, tables. So what are the solutions for that? Say for example, how do you provide the kind of this platform integrated with those in those scenarios? That's the point.
So I will come to you, and specifically we touched upon briefly on the aspect of regulator playing a more involved or important role as organizations define their security policies, postures. So with reference to this recent IT outsourcing, and I would say one specific component which has come up pertaining to the subcontractors part of it. So combining all the facets that your own priorities, the regulator and the subcontractors, how do you bridge your entire risk ecosystem for your organization?
From a risk professional's perspective, I always stare at this duality of convenience versus security, comfort versus risk. Because for me, risk is embedded in whatever be the features that give the customer a convenience. The security is a feature in any product. Like a car without a brake, you can imagine. Brake is a comfort for the driver, brake is a comfort for the traveler. Like any security system that provides comfort to the customer, comfort to the user. So that is my perspective on which I start that. For, RBI, they did not start now. They have been harping on this third-party risk, especially the supply chain risk that is emanating out of so much of vendor engagement, partnerships. So RBI has been constantly monitoring this, and they have been coming out with regulations. What an organization, especially banks, are more vulnerable to this because they carry a lot of customer data, and beyond that, they are a critical part of financial system. Customers' critical financial assets are on their systems. So, what an organization can do with a vendor managing the vendor risk case, treat the vendor as a part of the organization itself in risk management. Whatever be the security measures, whatever be the risk control measures that you take for an activity that is insourced or that is internal to the bank, if it is outsourced, the same level of security, it's the same level of risk management has to happen. So whatever be the testing, vulnerability assessment, and any testing that you do for the vendors, any certification that is required for the vendors, then whatever be the controls that are required, like BCPs, DR setups, everything should be in place. And beyond that, we need to constantly evaluate this, maybe on a frequency that's set based on the risk classification of the particular vendor. It can be annually, it can be even half yearly. So all these control measures are required, and treat the vendor as a part of the organization in risk assessment. That is a critical part in ensuring that whatever be the regulatory guideline is required to manage the vendors is complied with.
True. I believe this has been one of the important themes, that the same set of controls should be applicable irrespective of where exactly your solutions or the systems reside. On-prem, hybrid, off-prem, the control requirements remains the same. But maybe if I just move to the next part with you, Naveen, irrespective of how many controls we define, at the end of the day, at some point of time, data breaches and security incidents do happen. So how do we, take effective steps to respond to them? Or, as it is said, when there is a serious security breach which happens, there is no recovery.
Incident, I would be worried what will be the loss for the organization. First, what is the loss and how we can reduce the loss at that point in time. So you have to create a war room. Okay, end of the day, create a war room, do a brainstorming, and what has to be reduced. The loss has to be reduced. Period. Second, you have to go to the root cause analysis. What caused that breach? That is the second round, which we need to do it. Understanding the root cause and how it cannot happen next time. I mean, it should not happen. There is no other thing which can stop us. Maybe a different incident can happen, but it cannot have a same incident. When we are trying to do these things, you will come out with, generally a single mind will not be able to think on all these things. So when you have a 4 or 5 leadership team who are coming and discussing on this incident, you will come out with 2 or other areas where there are loopholes. So fix it once for all, whatever is the possible technology available at that point so that it gets solved. And third thing is the technology is fast changing. This goes without saying. So now you have to think down the line 2 years, 3 years, how things will be and what kind of threats you will have. So I will always have a team under CTO who has to think what will be the next level of risk which my database will be threat for. So I need a team who can tell me before the actual incident happens, so that I can avoid the future risk. This will be the three things which I will be doing it in this kind of a scenario. And that should till today we don't have any major incidents. There will be minor incidents. There you have to ready to take a call whether this loss will be is it a bearable loss? Is it a acceptable loss for the organization? Second, there also I wanted to go back and check on the root cause. Tomorrow this may lead to a bigger loss. So any incident has to be followed by a root cause analysis. Without that, you cannot complete or you cannot satisfy that your data is secure.
Please.
I think in the terms of priority, especially during a data breach, the first thing is to ensure the data breach is attacked and stopped, because a single data breach would ultimately lead to multiple data breaches, which is normal. So in this case, you'll have to first stop it. Initially, that should be your first effort, in my opinion. I'm sorry if I'm thinking. And then all the others, and then your root cause analysis and all the other things will follow. This is one. And secondly, the point you made is, again, why are we calling the CTO again? Now, when you're going to talk about security safeguards, it's only the CISO, CSSO. So the CTO is busy with the other, IT and software development, blah, blah, blah. But the CSO is constantly looking at security as a watchdog. So I would say the CFO, the CTO, and the CISO should work in tandem at this place. So this is my humble submission to you.
And just one point, he gave a lot of those things which we have to do. Additionally, one important point we have to do is now reporting to the regulator if there is a breach.
That goes without saying.
And that regulator now comes with the time bound. So it's correct. No, but this time bound is becoming tricky. For stakeholder, we have moral responsibility. But for the certain time which they are asking for, specifically when you become the vendor, we are talking about the extended arm of what CB rightly told, right? We becoming the extended arm. The challenge what happens is, because if CB has to report this in 4 hours to certain, so CB would expect the vendor to report to him in 2 hours. So in 2 hours, what Naveen was rightly telling, that we have to also find a root cause, because I can't go and tell CB we screwed up. I should tell CB we screwed up, this is the reason for that screwed up. Then only he can report it, right? So that all becomes time constrained one. Yeah, that's okay. That will happen anyway, eventually. So that point, I think, because now certain is very strict about it, and number of reports which go into certain is mind-blowing. They have automation in place today. The auto reply comes back to you. When you submit a submission of a breach, auto reply comes, you give all this one. And based on the sensitivity of the data, for example, if it is Aadhaar, then the call comes to you. If it is PII data, the call may not come to you. But that decision is made by them with priority on whom they have to call, because that much of data is now getting breached. So I'm just adding in, that's the point I would add.
Calling them to get to understand the root cause, I know people who have leveraged that, and they have, it made their life a lot easier in trying to get to where they had to be. So there is a plus and a minus, right? Yeah, they force a lot of things on you, but on the other hand, that there is a learning curve that you can simply jump across. So it is, it cuts both ways. So I just thought I'd share that.
That's absolutely, true.
Definitely. In fact, on the similar lines, I had the question for you. Like on one side, a lot of focus is given to the technology, and so far what we have seen is in security, it is not that we don't have technology, it's more a problem of plenty. You have more technology than what is required. Now, however, on one side, we have all the latest, greatest technology. On other side, we have noticed, and that's like for almost 70% of the large enterprises, we still don't know what is our inventory. We still don't, when we talk about simple process like vulnerability management, we have like some 20, 30,000 items which are open. So considering the reality that, okay, inventory is not known, I have 20,000 vulnerabilities which are open, the regulator is after me, report everything in 4 hours with RCA. So how do you orchestrate this security incident reporting in real life?
Yeah. We faced it also. Okay. So, the point it comes in is you can't have one score fit in, right? It's not like a ready-made shirt we can put it in this kind of scenario. The way I would look into is how do you put a weightage on that? So vulnerabilities which are run on the scanners, which comes as a de facto when you run on the scanners, right? So if you're talking about even CVSS scores, we know that CVSS scores goes haywire. That number comes as 9.5, which has no relevance to you. And there is a number comes in which is lower in 8, and we say that it, I mean, log4j is classic example. Like, so it is there in 10 places, you don't know where you want to hit it, and you don't even know in inventory where it is coming in. So the way we will look into is the balance we have to create as a CISO. That is very, very important, because it is a pull and push between the engineering team and the security team where this question comes in between these two. So it becomes very tricky for us. But the way we create balance would be looking into how much is it applicable to me, and if that one is coming in, how much I will be able to determine it's a false positive or a true negative, or it is the actual one which is happening into that. That's the way we run it. And again, coming on the CFO shoes, we have to put it in is, you will not be able to spend, see, return on investment, end of the day, we all in a company where we have to look for ROI. So if I have run a security tool, somebody promises me that I will solve all your problem and it is not giving me an ROI, it is too costly for me for running it, and a startup company or a MFI where we have the challenge of running it. So we may also adapt to open source products also in place. So then you have to look into it, how I have hardened it, how much of it applicable to me, how fast I can access on it, right? Like how fast I can go and fix that problem. That's very, very important for me. So sometimes we acknowledge, right, to our customers also tell that, yeah, we know this problem. This is the compensative control. We put it in place. This is the way we put it in. So we have tools like virtual patching we are talking today, which runs on WAF, where we are able to tell that, okay, if I mean, Log4j has given that all learning to us in fast track, right? So you know that the problem has already been released, but you don't have a patch from the vendor, and you are exposed to that problem. How are you going to face it? Is okay, this is the way we are doing it. This is the compensative control. And then segregation of duties to zero trust, where we have put it in place. Those are all the additional controls we can showcase. But of course, when it comes to RBI or for an auditor, it is 0 or 1. You comply or non-comply. So at times you get the brunt. You say that, boss, this is still non-compliance for you. Then you agree and go back and fix it. But the thing is, you should have thick skin. You should talk to your morale rather than talking to a number score which comes in a number, right? So it's like exam. The score which you got, your son or daughter got in the school doesn't matter. It is that point in time what she get assessed or what he got assessed, right? It is not that is their IQ, because on that situation how we faced it. The same thing applicable here. But the end point where we look into is, it should not result in a breach. So for you, that number which came as a low was because of that situation, that vulnerability which has happened. But because of that, will a breach happen or not? If you are able to put it quantifiable, I mean, everybody, I know we have mixed audience, people who have been ordered, who have been function, he would agree. He may not be able to agree it in the paper like law, right? By law, it has to be right. But by moral, I know that they are already following it. So that's the way I have handled it all through this. So I'll put it in that way.
Definitely. I think that's a very, very thin line which segregates the two. But maybe quickly, Akash, coming to you, I would like to add you from the implementation perspective. While like no matter how good the policies are, no matter how beautifully the systems are, at the end of the day, there is always an aspect of design as well from the customer. Like a very simple thing like Aadhaar, it could have 50 permutations. It could have that, okay, show me the masked version, show me only the last 4 digits, show me the first 4 digits, don't show me at all. even if it is in database, the administrator of the platform should not be able to see it.
Correct, exactly.
So how do you stitch this user aspect into this whole ecosystem?
So before you answer, I will add one more circle to it. There will be restrictive access to each level. For example, my field officer wants to know only about his customers. My supervisor want to know about his customers who are under him. Maybe my CEO wants to know as a company as a whole. So how do you, I don't want everybody to touch the database. So how does the platform help us without so many people touching the database? I want someone in between, an agent who can do processing and give the relevant information alone. So that's the level at which we are expecting.
Okay. By the way, the answer of both of the questions sound actually touch to each other. So regarding the platform, when we talk about, okay, one of the very first area is the implementation, that how we are implementing it and how we are using the controls and the security layers provided by the system. Okay. So when we talk about ServiceNow as a system or any of the SaaS system, they came up with at least 3 basic type of security control. One is role-based access, another is group-based access, and third is location-based access, which is, I was talking about IP-based restriction. So now both of the questions arise with the point number 1 and point number 2. One is role-based access. And when I say role-based access, it's not just only on the visibility of the data. Okay, when we are talking about the role-based access, it is also applicable on the encryption of the data. So I'll give you a different set of layer. That if the people are having this role, they only be able to visible the data in a plain text. But if the user is not having at least this control, he may be able to look the record from a holistic view, but when he tries to look the Aadhaar data or any other sensitive data, then he will see the encrypted value. Okay, so that's the role-based access I'm talking about. That is number 1. That answers to you, Surya, your question. And now coming on to your question. So first part is role-based access has cleared it out. Second is when we talked about the group-based access, so it's the layer of the people that we defined, and that we don't define by ourselves. We actually take it from the AD, which obviously customer control. Now from the AD, you also define what kind of the layer of the rules that particular group is having and the whole hierarchy. Now we can have the hierarchy-based access as well, and all those controls be assured in a way, and all those things can be configured in a way that, okay, this person will be able to, let me give you a scenario. Akash right now will be able to access these 5 records which has been transferred in the name of Akash. Now, Surya might be able to view 500 records because he is the group owner. But as a CISO or as a CEO or as a CTO, someone will be able to view that whole vertical record. So all those type of grouping and accessing can be done. All those configuration can be done. But one of the important aspect that I want to drive is that when we talk about role-based access control, it's not just on the visibility of the data, but it is also on the right visibility of the data. That is important because encryption play a major role while we are seeing this data as well. Because it cannot be just that, okay, I'm having the access, I can see everything. No, it should not be. Role-based access control should come into the picture for each and every data layer. Not just on the record level, but also on the column segments as well. So that is number 1. And I want to add a few more points because we were discussing a lot of questions. We were discussing a lot of points. See, we all have heard one proverb, okay, prevention is better than cure, right? But in security area, it's no more applicable. Because in security, it's not a matter of if. That if the security breach will happen. It's the question now is when. And it's not the prevention. or preventive approach. Nowadays, because of the data is too much, nowadays everyone is moving to readiness and resilience. And that's the point that you were trying to make. And I want to give one beautiful aspect. I was reading this lookout report, okay? You know what, in India, 22%, that is the major segment of the security breaches, is still the phishing. And second is yes, and second is social engineering.
See, people are the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. And third is the insider malicious activity. And banking is on the finance sector, banking sector is on the third position. The very first position is healthcare in India. Second is public sector. Third is finance. And the average cost for 2022 till 2023, it's 17.9 CR for all the critical issues. That's the cost. So if we are talking about the numbers, and absolutely we have to talk about the numbers, be it CTO or be it board, that this is the average cost. Do you want to bear it when the security issues has happened? And one more important aspect is, see, till now, the kind of issues and the kind of policies we have been applying on the security tools, it's be it SIEM tools, vulnerability, or be it SOAR tools like ServiceNow or any other. Most of the things that we are applying till now is on structured data. That is if and else logic. It's nothing more than that. But nowadays, and I was reading one of the report as well, 56% is the issues reported by unstructured data. It's unstructured data. You cannot apply if and else logic. Probably we have to change our approach, that instead of just SIM or any other tool doing if and else logic, we have to first put the analysis on the data, that whatever the data is being shared. Because that is important. Otherwise, unstructured data lies anywhere. And that's the reason even many of the countries blocked VLC player. I don't know how many of you know it, but VLC player was blocked for almost 5 to 6 months. And reason was the Chinese company, when VLC was streaming some of the data, Chinese companies were streaming the data and putting some of the malicious activity. And you cannot track that malicious activity because that was coming from a bits and bits and bits of pieces from n number of places. That's the total unstructured data. Probably what we have to see is from different point of view. He was talking involving CTO. As a CTO, yes, absolutely. It's my job. Right now for security, it's not just one party or one tool that is applicable. It's the holistic point of view. Because in digitization, it's not just CISO. It's also applicable on the team that is implementing the solution. It's also applicable on the people that is developing the solution. It's also a responsibility of CIO as well. So, but few of the things that obviously with the data and how the things will change, obviously we have to mature.
Thanks, Akash. So maybe I will come to you, and that is continuing the same thought process. I would say in the last couple of years, especially on the SaaS side of it, in terms of adoption of cloud-based solutions, rapid adoption has been seen. But second is, by virtue of you adopting a technology, essentially the fundamental is you don't have the hardware, you don't own the software. The people who are managing it, maybe perhaps within the organization, most of the scenarios, they are also outsourced. So the administrators or the platform administrators, they are also not under your control. Now, considering that you don't have a direct control over hardware, software, people, and most important aspect is who is going to guard the guardians. How do you, in this tough situation, how do you really look forward to managing the whole data flow, data privacy, data security with reference to regulators being so strict and putting in a lot of controls?
Mobis, so unlike the BFSI, we are in from on-premises locations, and SaaS we still yet to explore. Maybe it's a good for pass on to other person's questions. So since the SaaS, we are still exploring that. We don't take it outside. So we keep still on-premise. Still we are, except the office documents, so which is we classify as a groups, sensible data and groups and other things. We take Azure M365, that's it. All other is on-premises, and we still believe in and we don't have that requirement also. So yeah, it's still the requirements like B2C or something like that. We are still not so. So we are closed, and we are responsible for not RBI. We are responsible for the customers, so and direct customers, and we have to run the show. And basically, we separate OA and FA. That is our primary, and IoT is the base where we have to protect endpoints. So a lot of IoTs, and where the vendor streams comes inside, and we keep all external parameters closed. The FA people who will come inside, those people is injects with their laptops. It's like, so those things we keep in line. So we also have incident managements where in case in a breach, how we react through that. So those things we do on that. So maybe you can take some other person's as exploration. Yeah.
Especially all of you would have seen that so far when we talk about security, we always talk about IT. We talk about servers, we talk about network equipments, and what we have seen in the industry, starting from the largest to the smallest, in the OT space, security has been all about isolation. That you build a wall, let nobody enter the room, and that has been the definition of security. However, when it comes to the OT landscape, the fact of the matter remains the same. They are also equally vulnerable. So how do you see that changing in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years? Considering, in fact, recent, if you Google, there has been a recent attack where somebody has been able to hack a pacemaker to have an impact on the human life. That's the era where we are entering.
Point one mistake also we are done. So we have so many security equipments and other things. So even point one of a mission which is breached, so we are done from the FA point of view. So we don't have option of keeping walls in between, because we mix up with all IoTs and here. We segregate with kind of a network layers with all those things, and we separate from them what access has to be given to those things, even from the VPN layers. Recent incidents like one of the company, I don't know what to mention. So just a VPN, one VPN, MFAs are implemented, but still some for testing purpose, one MFA for the IT person has been kept. The breach has happened from the hacker. He entered into that and injected the security. And we thought the people are having all MFA on their place. And the use case is very unique. And the entire encryption of the data, including the backup, and all intact, but only one small ID which is not MFA, done. So security is always learning, and we have to follow all disciplines, and we have to keep all intact.
A lot of IoT devices, you see a lot of, even 0.1% can create that havoc that which we are not expecting. What I understand, you have multiple solutions to take care of you at the guard, but still breaches happen, as you rightly said. It could be a human error. I think so Akash gave a fantastic example that social engineering, the other aspects of phishing attacks where human go, and so that we see a lot of human errors still happening, though we might have multiple policies set up. How do we say that today we know we are in attack? Are we able to identify that particular part? That is one. And if we are in attack, how far are we attacked? Which particular line are we in? Are we at a very niche stage of being attacked? Are we in somewhere where half information is gone? I hope I could save half. or we are on our deathbed. We don't know that. And isn't this very important today? We have, as I said, we have guard, but still we want to know that whether if we are attacked, what is that we are putting in that kind of a categorization to see where are we, if we are attacked, how far, and if we are attacked, then how far or how fast can we go to the next step of action in terms of remediation. Today, I see security is only spoken on my attack surface is growing. I want to make sure that my attack surface is stringent, but still we see attacks, breaches happening. IOC has been happening. But don't we not need to also have this one part that I need to, if something of that happens, I need to be on the secured side. So I take the analogy, if an accident happens, though we have brilliant cars, brilliant safety measures, but accidents do happen. But fine thing is like how quickly we make sure that the accident is being remediated and taken to that point. So what is the process that what we see in that situation that comes from your side, sir? That is one thing that I wanted to understand. Whether it's on-prem, on cloud, SaaS model, no SaaS, it doesn't matter.
So everybody is learning. This is a question to everybody, and it's open forum. And whatever we do, tomorrow a new thing is being evolved, and it's a content. That's why we have, if you see in 20s, we don't have this culture as security products at all. And, even we have firewall. Those five things. Yeah, that 5 things taken care is done. Now, if you see, every day new product, even backup, immutation. So many concepts are evolving because we are learning. So we don't have direct answer. We have to learn and put walls to that and keep going. Absolutely. Yeah.
You rightly said. Learning is again on the detection.
Yes.
I'm saying learning is there. I will create 2020 we never had anything. 2010 you said there were no jobs for security. But now security has become the greatest element in every organization that what we talk. Whether as in healthcare, as a pharmacy, or a pharmaceutical or manufacturing, those guys are also talking. Forget about the BFSIs and the governments who were having some regulatories, that's why they were following in. But why security has become important, we are learning on that aspect, okay, that the attack surface is evolving. We don't want to get attacked, but the attack is still happening. Want to understand from you that, okay, if the attack happens, how do you tackle? What is your first line of defense? What becomes your second line of defense? Or how do you remediate that particular part? That is what we want to understand from this group, because this is where we want to evolve as well.
Valid point. I think he touched upon clearly telling about
Correct.
You're asking on across world. Let me give some. So there is a parlance we use called as dwell time. So attacker dwell time, if you're looking into last 10 years, has become 10x. Correct. Which is basically before getting identified, the attacker came into your system. I mean, the time the attacker was into the system before identification is the dwell time, that has gone up 10x. 10x. Right? So I would look into it both, all the three, right? Prevention, detection, postmortem. All the three are required. Prevention you will put in place on talking about zero trust implementation, isolations, third-party risk, supply chain happening, those are all you will put it in place. Detection, obviously, we would have in place. So on data exfiltration, how much of data it will go, I will have an average, not on 1 GB data, 10 GB data, but is about on an average of this time, this period in time, how much it was going before, how much I am comparing now. That's an example of detection we will do. Along with SOC, SIM, SOAR, all of them being placed, and with that will be there, automation being in place to bring it down, to bring it up, that I will do. That is number 2. Number 3 is about the postmortem, which is very tricky, which has happened for, closed forum, I can tell the company's name also, right? If you're talking about HDFC, there was a breach, then they told it is not them, that is their third party, which is also with the name HDFC, but they said it is not mine. You know that, right? Like that has happened. Like HDFC and HDFC Finance, I think. It's HDB, right? Like, so that comes in picture. So there, you don't want somebody else to tell you. If you want to know yourself,
is about comes under dark web monitoring. So dark web monitoring, we have to put it in place. So anywhere, because the problem is when you create a product, that is the way we identify people, right? When you create underscore prod is production server, underscore dev is dev server. If I have given for X bank, I give it as X bank underscore prod. If I have given for YMFI, it is YMFI underscore dev. That's the way I named it, right? So inside that, attributes would be having the name. Correct. So you won't even know if there is a data dump comes on the dark web for a sale, whether it belongs to you or damn your partner with whom you have put it in place. So what I would put it is that dark web monitoring also to be in place. So you know that if there is a leakage happened, don't panic. Pick up the data. See whether the data pertaining to you or somebody else. That is very, very important. But the point is, it becomes reactive if somebody else tell you that. So instead of you doing dark web monitoring, it is coming somewhere in the dark web forum and it is coming in Twitter telling that, oh, XYZ is hacked. No, we have absolutely no, that leeway is gone. Your runway is gone, right? Like you are already in the reactive mode and you can't lie. Because they pick that up also. If your CEO comes and tells that, because CEO would come to us, CISO or a CTO to tell that was what happened. And we tell the story, CIO has to tell it because you are a listed company, you have to tell it in the board. And if it has been, if you are lying, that's what happened in Uber. But then CISO got arrested. See, definitely CISO has not done it, right? He would have not done independently. I mean, that created a panic wave in the industry telling about, will we get arrested? I said, boss. So in our company, it became a norm. So everybody says, if there is something happen, who will be arrested? I'll inform, sir, I will be arrested. Don't. But I will ask you a few questions. If I am arrested, if I am going alone or I am going to pull you down is the point. So tell me A, B and C you have complied. Then if something goes bad, I am responsible. If you don't comply, we both are responsible. But if you want somebody to be arrested first, put my name, you don't worry about it. And I told my boss also, get anticipatory bail for me. Everybody want me to be arrested. Yes. So the point I come to you, coming back to your point is about, I have to put it on all the layers, sir. But that's where comes about his point, I think, where we are talking about having a think tank in place, right? Which we are discussing about is that we have to think through. See, because it is, I pick up from what he is telling, right? So I know this is on an industry which is not related to me. Absolutely. But that one account which was not having an MFA, what it would create is something it should etch in my mind. I should go back and think about, do we leave any account for anything? If we have left it on that, this kind of repercussion will happen, how I will manage it. So that is the way we have to keep all our ears open for this, and we have to think, sir. But problem is at times two things, right? Money, time. Absolutely. At times you may not have it. So sometimes you prioritize on what is the one which is most critical for me. If something is less critical in my evaluation today, I may put it down. It may come and haunt me, but I have to take the risk.
And I think that prioritization is already happening actually. And if I may share, in fact, you would be surprised that at this point of time, largest oil exploration companies or the core of the infrastructure companies, especially on the OT space, they have already started discussions about implementing the same set of controls which you have in the IT ecosystem to OT. Before, I would say after maybe 3 years, 5 years, perhaps the OTC ecosystems will also open up. But the preparation has already started. And I think that's a testament that the thinking process is already on. And I think by the time we reach there, we will be there. So maybe taking the discussion further, so I think I will just continue the same thought process. Yeah. On one side, your technology is outside. Your people are outside. A lot of subcontracting is happening. Now, considering these challenges, and especially the regulator is very clear that you are responsible for everything. If something goes bad, you are the one who will be held accountable. So among all this, how do you implement your compliance frameworks and ensure that you navigate through the ecosystem?
To put this point, okay, first and foremost, I would like to see what the due diligence is all about, what the contract says all about, okay, and whether our company's infrastructures or is fit for this arrangement, okay. In that way, I will see that, okay, if these things are being implemented and if I put the due diligence and contracts in proper way, whether this is going to help my organization. Okay, in that way, I will see to it that no future flaws or no future things will happen. Apart from this, I will see that regular audits are happening in the place so that, okay, the risks are being monitored, okay, and proper, what you call, proper measures are being taken on place to eradicate all the happenings which will happen in the future. This is how I will see to these problems. Okay. So to
Definitely, I think it's always a combination of, I would say, the tech plus the contract compliance, which also plays an equal role in terms of enforcing it. But if I just move a little further, however, I think one aspect which has also happened is, like, for example, if we take a simplest technology like email, Microsoft Cloud, it is running on. Now, you have your contractual framework in place, you have implemented a set of controls. However, fact of the matter is that the business is dependent. Even if there is an issue, you cannot get away with the technology. So considering the dependence which you have to run your business on the technology, how do you go ahead and define your third-party risk management programs? So,
you know, given that there is a mix of industries, and each one has its own challenges, right? From our perspective, the third party here is, I would say, a mix of vendors that we deal with and service providers. And in addition to that, we have our OEMs being a manufacturing industry, and they bring in their own platforms into our mix. The other challenge that we have is some of those platforms that are sourced from the OEMs have a different vintage. Okay, the protocols are different. So it is a nightmare to actually bring it into a homogeneous platform and try to work through it. We have initiated several programs to get that going and bring everything to an even keel. At the end of the day, there is always this challenge of driving, defining what is the level of security that you want on a machine that is not going to generate much of data versus one that you really want, and then what are you prepared to invest in it to secure and use that information. So there is a bit of ROI coming in at this point of time to determine to what degree you want to have the access penetrate and take it out. We have unique challenges that we have remote plants, and the machine breaks down. And this going back to your point on OT security, the manufacturer needs access, and very rarely these days they don't really fly down somebody to the remote plant. They want to log in and see, right? So securing that access becomes a huge issue. Okay. Today, and you said 5 years from now it will get commonplace. It is not so. It's probably there very near. Okay, because we are seeing it very live. That you bring in a piece of equipment, it breaks down. You need somebody to come and take a look at it. The guy doesn't want to come down without knowing what is the diagnostic. To run the diagnostic, you have to open it up into the network. Your network, you have to open it out to him. And if you open it out, you have the contaminant risks that go with it, right? So you start off by trying to segregate the networks, right? You keep the OT network separately from the IT network so that your rest of your business doesn't go down. So you are really minimizing the risks out here, or rather isolating the risks, right? And if at all there is a breach, then it is within the OT network. And then to what extent you can afford to go there. And there are standard off-the-shelf products like Clarity that give you that spectrum of service, but it comes at a huge cost. And there are emerging products with Microsoft, and they've acquired an Israeli company which is doing a lot of scaling up on trying to compete with Clarity. So these are some of the developments are taking place, but I foresee within the next year, year and a half, this will become more rugged and commonplace in terms of securing the OT side of things.
Thanks a lot for sharing the insights. I think definitely the time frames are much shortened now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So moving, Giri, to you, I think I will just touch upon a different aspect of it because I believe as India, we have the most vibrant fintech as an ecosystem. I think the level of convenience which we have on the fintech side, perhaps no other country on this planet has it. While on the other side, now I think we have a regulator which is catching up very, very heavily, putting up the checks and balances here, everywhere. So how do you kind of, while on one side, it's pertinent that you have to innovate, you have to keep the convenience at the center while you design your products. While on the other side, you have to abide to what really the regulator says, the compliance aspect of it. So in the whole product design, how really you strive to balance the two?
Thank you and hello. Yeah. Thank you and as you said, fintech and in India, it is now becoming the best combination, especially from the 2016 and 2017 and from the likes of PhonePe, Paytm. They have just revolutionized this industry and the different architectures, even the Razorpay or M2P and people across we have seen people just right from your the most remotest locations. Okay, just taking back probably taking back to 1970s, 1960s. This nationalization of banks and all that were done so that government was thinking that banks would reach out to the core end layer of the customers, but they never succeeded. Never succeeded, and even till 2016, till this Jandan accounts were open, like still 70 crore or 60 crore people were just out of the financial sector. Even that has now reduced significantly, and we are saying that around 35 crore people is only still not financially included, which is still a big number, and government and other stakeholders are trying their level best. Yes, fintech in India is happening and it is happening in a very big way. Answering to your question specifically in terms of how Digimoney Finance or how any stakeholder of this industry or any participant of this industry would balance between the regulator and the utilization. So this is kind of going to be like a tight rope to walk on. It's not going to be easy, but at the same time, it is not going to be that too challenging because at various points in time, regulators have been regulators. They have been, because I come from the chartered accountancy background and my mentor in Deloitte used to say that regulator is God, because if the regulator didn't say that you need to be doing an audit for every company, you would be jobless.
Correct.
Every big four. So big four or big six or any audit firm. It's a huge industry. Every big four makes $40 billion a year, which means it is like regulators are key components and they are there for some reason. So in terms of adding on to a lot of people who have said about the regulators, this is what it is. There's a famous saying in Australia where people jovially say, this is what it is. So we'll have to accept and move on that this is what it is. We have the regulator, but we should also be happy that we have a regulator who is kind of far-sighted in terms of a lot of things, and they keep challenging us, pushing us for our benefits. At times, kind of burn in the back, but that's how it is. So yes, in terms of how to balance, we know that in two sides of this coin, one side is a defined side. Regulator is a defined side.
he comes out with scope, he comes out with limitations, he sets the play area. The other side is the area where you can include any fintech or any organization that you want to patch up with or you want to get associated is the area where you can decide upon. So once we understand the scope and limitations and the play area, it becomes a bit more clearer that what is that you are allowed to do and what is that you are not allowed to do. And then one side is fixed, one side is fluid. In the fluid side, what I would say is that we will have to do the proper vendor due diligence. We will have to first strip down in terms of what kind of organization we are getting hands on with. Do a proper due diligence, not just in terms of operational capabilities, but also financial and risk capabilities that the organization has gone through. We should also take into account the data residency, because even though the fintech could be majorly out of India, but we should also be cognizant of the fact that the data that is getting generated to any NBFC or bank should be residing back in India. So the data residency agreement becomes very, very critical. And the next major component is that we know that what is that we are expecting. We should know that what we are expecting from the fintech provider. So once we are clear with that, we should also be very, very clear and mindful of how our data is getting processed at their end. Process clarity should be available, and yet scenarios should be well defined and should be well thought out. So data processing agreement is also very much important. And we should also be very, very cognizant of the fact that any relationship, it's more about long term, but at the same time, we should not be ruling out the fact that there could be a scenario of an exit scenario. So we should also be cognizant of the fact that how do you exit from a relationship? So the exit scenario should also be thought out. So probably this how we have thought out, and we are pretty new company. We are not kind of stalwarts or in this industry. We just started in 2020 is when we incorporated this company. In 2020 itself, we were lucky enough to get license in 2020 itself, and we started our app building process in the month of September. And within a period of 4 months, we were able to go live in Play Store. That's by February we were live. So if you have the right vendors in place, and if you are very clear in terms of what is your objective that you are trying to achieve, and what is the requirement that your vendor or your fintech company needs to satisfy you, then I think India is the right place. Thank you.
Definitely. I think thanks for sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate it. And in fact, definitely, I would say, in addition to the standard people, process, and the technology, of course, now we have all started talking about the contractual framework and the subcontracting frameworks to be included as part of the core itself, so as to really deliver the speed at which the fintech is moving in India. So I think thank you so much. With this, I would move to the last part of the evening. So I will hand it over to Zishan, who have a short presentation on sharing the details about how ServiceNow provides offering in handling the overall security operations for large enterprises. So over to you, Zishan.
I'm between finishing this off and letting you guys go. So thank you for still being patient enough to be here. So I asked you a question that what is the factor that how the remediation process needs to be done. This is where we wanted to push in that today Sir spoke about the black hat part and everything, that finally we need to have where we need to be in terms of what the data that what we have, how are we tackling that data. We don't need to go very far. We don't need to have too much of money and too much of people to address that. So this is what we have. India today has become the largest GDP, but cybercrime is actually the most third biggest GDP that what we have. That's the real fact of life. And still, so that's why India will be still in the 6th position. That is where we are. Third one will still be the cyber crime part. But coming faster, because I don't want to take much of time, we have so many security solutions. Everybody is talking about the defense economy, the defense that what we build in on our peripheral devices to make sure that nobody penetrates in. But still, we see a lot of events happening due to human error, social media errors, sometimes policy configurations going wrong. Sometimes we do exceptions, which we are not even aware for whom we have done it. These are some of the errors that what we find, which leads to a lot of debt into security. How do we manage that? How do we come to know that if there are debts in security, how are we trying to make sure that these debts are in a fastest, in the most easiest manner are being rectified? And that is where we developed a solution. We thought, okay, everybody is talking on the perimeter of defense. Why not something built on security where we give our customers to answer if there are incidents that are happening at their end? Incidents in more reactive manner. Sir has rightly said that there are reactive incidents that happen, and there are proactive way of looking at the incidents. One is when the security incident has happened and how do you defend that? And second is if I have a technology to find where my weakness that lies in, how do I rectify those weaknesses? And that is where we built in where there's too much of data, no visibility. The IT team and the security team are fighting in silos because they feel that they are the best, they are doing their best, they are doing the right things, and they keep blaming each other like a husband and wife, but still they don't find an answer to it. And what we feel is finally the answer that every CEO wants from the CTO, CISO is, okay, the breach has happened, but I want to know why it happened, where it happened, how did it happen? What made it to happen? These are some of the questions that the first thing that everybody wants to know. I am putting in so much of investment, whether it's just a mere firewall, but that's not coming free. If I'm making that investment to protect, where is my protection failing? What is that is making that issue to have the incident come in at that particular point, and even if I'm investing bit more or very much on the security defense side. So this is where we come in. Then today the most important factor that what we're seeing is the MTTD, that is the mean time to detect, and what is the mean time to remediate. I'm finding detection capabilities getting better, but is the mean time to remediate getting better? Because today if I have detection, a pool of detections, finally I'll be only compliant if I have a remediation on the right side. If I don't walk on the other side of the spectrum, I'm never going to be compliant. That is what we need to understand. And that is why security became, as rightly said by Sir, after 2020 it has become a board level discussion. Today, earlier till 2010 nobody was talking about it, but today everybody wants to talk about security, debts in the security, what are the enhancements in the security posture, what are the cyber security attacks that what we are seeing in attack surfaces and so on and so forth. So that is why ServiceNow thought of creating a security operation team, and that is where I will put in. We thought of building on the platform two solutions, and this is nothing to do with the ITSM, SaaS or anything. Simple two solutions where we think if the incident happens, how do you manage those incidents, which will give you the answers of who, when, how and what. The first thing that what we do is like give you that visibility, because how we do that is we bring in a lot of data from your security products that what we have. We do the correlation, we bring in the business context to it and do the prioritization. Third part is we give you an assignment in terms of how do you can remediate these particular incidents. So we have recommendations, we have playbooks, we have automation of those playbooks. So I found an incident, I will tell you who, where and what, how it has been done. After that, I will align it to your analyst, whoever is being aligned to do that. We'll create a ticket so that everybody gets a visibility in terms of what the ticket is all about, what is the incident is all about, what is the analysis that has been done, and what is the solution that we need to provide. And then we integrate with all your firewall security solutions to mitigate those open things or the human errors that what we have found by creating policies, deleting certain emails, deleting certain files which are unnecessary. So that is what we do in terms of the entire logic that what we apply. So this is how we work. We actually integrate with all the security solutions that what we have. We get it on a centralized platform. The centralized platform helps you to have the intelligence in terms of prioritization. So how the prioritization happen? Because this is the key factor that which everybody needs to understand. I would say that a critical incident has happened in ABC environment. Is that ABC environment the biggest environment that you have? No. The thing that what you want to understand is that ABC incident that has happened is critical to me? If now I take that example, if I had that ABC incident on 2 machines, let's say my machine is only a standalone machine, I am a sales guy, I do pre-sales for ServiceNow, but then after that I don't connect to my network ever, and my machine is not redundant at all. It is not as important as it should be. But there is another machine which might be my MD's machine, which has all the information. She would be connecting to every other services within ServiceNow. Then that machine becomes the most critical aspect. So if I have to choose between my criticals, which is the most critical one, as Sir rightly said, I have to leave it upon luck factor that, okay, whatever I've done for best for my company, but I don't know whether it's still right or wrong. This is where we don't need to be dependent on luck. The luck gets nullified here. There's a logic that applies because the impact score that comes in, that where the incident is, how much the incident will spread within my network, through whom it will spread if it is identified on that particular machine, asset, application, whatever it may be. That is the logic that what we apply to do the prioritization. And then you can have the automation of the entire lifecycle management that what we bring in. So this is what we do. So we actually have a vulnerability response management, and we ingest data from all the vulnerability scanners, whether it is the infrastructure vulnerability scanners like Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7, application vulnerabilities like Veracode, 45, OT vulnerabilities like Clarity, Tenable, or any other vendor that what we have. Cloud security would be from 6dig, Sync, or container security that what like Burpsuit, Checkmarks, Acunetics. These are all scanners that are available in market, and even if you are using anything beyond this, we have an API integrations with them. Whatever I spoke today, we have an out-of-box integrations with them. Similarly, on the incident side, we integrate with all the large-scale SIMs like Secure Onyx, Splunk, IBM QRadar, ArcSight, and so on and so forth. We also work on the data privacy part. We also work on the DLP incident management. So most of the customers are today using DLPs, but there are still, even after DLP, they have put policies, the breaches do happen. The incidents do get generated. And how to tackle those generated incidents, how to remediate them faster, how to make sure that the impact of the incident is not costing you a lot. That is what the solution is entirely built upon. So I'll just skip this part. This is how the flow is in security incident response. We integrate with all the SIMs, bring the data in a real-time mode onto the platform. The platform helps you to prioritize in terms of risk score, that what we give, in terms of the impact, how much will be the impact within your organization. That's where we bring the business contextuality. And the third part is also we give the asset scoring in terms of which particular assets are at the maximum breach. Once we have done the prioritization, we help you to also understand whether it is a false positive or a true positive. So false positive cases are taken off, true positives are taken and been aligned to the right set of people. Once we have that, we do the orchestration part as well, and that is an automated part. We act as a SOAR within the system itself. We help you to understand what are the methods behind it and what are the methods that you need to follow to rectify it, what are the steps that have been associated to it, and those steps can be automated from the platform itself. And last but not the least is we give you the RCA as well, why this incident happened, what is the root cause analysis for this particular incident, so that the analyst gets a complete preview about why the incident has happened. And now when the InfoSec team and the IT team don't need to fight, because now they need to understand where it occurred from, what was the remediation process that has been taken in, and how much quick time has these incidents been remediated. This is the entire flow that what we have. I've just given you in a very quick crux. And similarly, we have it on the vulnerability response. We integrate with scanner. The prioritization method is same. The triaging method is same. But here, the entire remediation process changes. We can do patch orchestration from the platform itself. You can create exception management. You can create change management. So the entire vulnerability response, you see a lot of vulnerabilities that come in. We actually remove deduplications. So there is no duplicate vulnerabilities that what we associate with. We try to make sure that lower down the vulnerability count as much as we can. If you want to understand that in further, we can actually help you. How do we do that? And on patch orchestration side, we actually integrate with all the patch orchestration tool and create the patch on the platform. So the entire cycle of detecting the vulnerability and patching it and then revalidating it, whether the patch has been properly applied, does those vulnerabilities still exist within my environment, all that thing gets covered under this. And in both the solutions, that what I wanted to also let you know, we give you a complete insight where the attacker today is in the position of the attack, whether he is on an initial stage, whether he is in a central accessibility stage, whether he is on a exfiltration state. So when we have this entire attack surface information, I can provide you that information that if I have an attack done, and sir rightly said, it's a more reactive thing. But after the reactiveness, that somebody letting me know that you've been attacked, the tool will let you know that you've been attacked, and in that attack, you are today in this particular position. That means you have time, this much time left to make sure that your reputation is not blown out, your data is not being compromised, and so on and so forth. So this is where we have created that tool to give you visibility, to help you to remediate, and remediate in the most fastest and the easiest manner. That is bringing the efficiency out of it. So this is what we do. ServiceNow can create workflow vulnerabilities and configuration issues for infrastructure, cloud, container, and application asset. On the security time, it gives you customers to respond and remediate security incident faster and more efficiently. And that is where it becomes the single pane of window in terms of agility, in terms of management, in terms of visibility. Thank you from my side. Thank you for having me a patient listening. Have a great day, evening today, going forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zishan. Thank you to all the panel members for the amazing discussion. We would like to now felicitate our wonderful speakers for joining us today. I would request Surya, Akash, and Zishan to kindly do the honors. Mr. Girinath Davi. Mr. Shankar Vishwanathan. Mr. Vaidyanathan Iyer. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sarveshwara Rao. Thank you, sir. Mr. Shivaraman. Mr. Naveen Raj. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Mr. Sibi. Mr. Vijay Chaudhary. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Mr. Sudarshan. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.